The deadline to appeal your property taxes is looming. We'll talk about what you need to know to start the process. I'm Annie, and this is Law You Can Use. Welcome to the Ohio State Bar Association's Law You Can Use, where we answer commonly asked questions about different legal topics. Today, we're discussing property tax appeals, and I'm joined by attorney Patrick Heery, who practices real estate law with the Columbus-based firm Bluestone Law Group. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for answering some of my questions today.
Annie, thanks for having me. Like you said, I work with Bluestone Law Group. Charles Bluestone's the other attorney there. We've been practicing in this field for a number of years, and we're happy to help property owners save some tax dollars.
So you deal a lot with property taxes. So let's start by answering how and by whom property taxes are determined.
Okay, so one thing to just keep in mind is when you're looking at property taxes, you're always looking in arrears. So any complaint that's filed today is going to be addressing last year's property taxes. Okay, so how taxes are determined, they're derived from market values that are assigned to each parcel by each local auditor. So the auditor goes around and assigns every parcel in his county or her county a property value, and then the property taxes are derived from that value using different school levies and effective tax rates. And so the property tax cycle, it goes on a 6-year cycle. Year one is a reappraisal year. The local auditor will go around and assess every single parcel in the county and assign each parcel a property value. Years 2 and 3 are just carryovers from year one, unless, of course, somebody files a property tax appeal. Then year 4 is an update year where the auditor will assess the market and adjust the parcel's values accordingly. Then years 5 and 6 are just carryovers from year 4, unless, of course, there's another property tax appeal.
So if a property owner believes that the auditor's valuation of their property is incorrect or they disagree with it, they can challenge it, right?
Correct.
And what are some circumstances under which they would file a challenge?
Okay, so some common circumstances would be, say you purchased a property in an arm's length transaction and you purchased it for less than what the auditor is valuing it at. That's a pretty straightforward case. You're most likely going to win that case. Some less common situations or more complex situations occur where, say you own a commercial office building and you lease out space to tenants. Say for some reason 1 year you have an increased number of vacancies. That might be grounds for filing a tax appeal because you're going to be struggling a little financially and your property is not going to be worth as much. A good rule of thumb is if you look at your property and you say to yourself, there's no way I could sell it for what the auditor is valuing it at, you should probably call an attorney and think about filing a tax appeal.
And then what would be the procedure I would follow to appeal the valuation?
Okay, so it's a 2-step procedure. The first part is filing what is called a complaint against valuation. This form is a universal form. It's used across all 88 counties in Ohio. You can normally find it on your local auditor's website or the Ohio Department of Taxation's website. It's a 14-question form. It's pretty straightforward, but there are some pitfalls on it. If you mess up or put the wrong numbers in or put the wrong property owner's name in, your complaint might get dismissed on jurisdictional grounds. Our law firm does a presentation where we discuss all 14 questions and how to avoid these procedural pitfalls. So you file this form, and if you're requesting a decrease of $50,000 or more on your property, the local school district is automatically notified of your complaint form, of your complaint being filed, and they become a party to the complaint, to the appeal. And that's because local school districts receive about 65 to 70% of property taxes. So they have a vested interest if you're asking for a significant decrease because they're going to be losing money. The second part of this appeal process is the Board of Revision hearing. After you file the complaint, you'll have a hearing before the Board of Revision, normally in the summer months, June, July, August. The hearings will be about 15 to 30 minutes. At the end of the hearing, the panel, it's a 3-member panel, they'll issue a decision about 2 to 4 weeks after the hearing, and then if you are not satisfied with the result of the hearing, you can file an appeal for free to the Ohio Board of Tax Appeals, or you can pay a filing fee and appeal to the local Court of Common Pleas.
So how would an attorney come in handy for something like this?
The important thing to remember is if you file a complaint against valuation, you have the burden as the complainant to prove your case, to overcome the auditor's value of your property. So the number one thing is, this is a small kind of niche field within the property, within the field of property law. And so the attorneys tend to have some pretty good experience with different types of properties, with the way different types of cases are going to play out. We like to do a cost-benefit analysis with our clients before we actually file a complaint. Give them an idea of what the best case scenario is, what the worst case scenario is, and what the most likely outcome is. So experience is the number one factor. Number two, there's normally a lot of, especially in these commercial complaints, commercial properties, there's going to be a lot of tax dollars at issue here, which means the local school district is going to be involved, which means they're going to hire counsel for themselves. The school district's counsel is going to look for any reason to get your complaint dismissed on jurisdictional grounds. So if you don't hire an attorney, or at least consult with an attorney, and you fill out the complaint form incorrectly, your case may be dismissed before you even get to present the case on the merits. The third factor I would say is, with property tax appeals, unless you recently purchased your property in an arm's length transaction, you're going to have to submit an appraisal report to support your case, support your lower value. We tend to work with appraisers on almost a daily basis, and we kind of have an idea of which appraiser will be the right appraiser for you, for your particular kind of property. So certain appraisal firms only do residential properties. Certain ones kind of have a focus on hotels or industrial buildings. So we can kind of steer you in the direction of a good appraiser, and we know what a good or a fair appraisal fee is.
So there are some deadlines that we should be aware of in 2018, right?
Correct. Usually the deadline to file a property tax appeal is March 31st. However, this year March 31st falls on a Saturday, so it is extended to the next business day, which is April 2nd. So day after April Fool's Day, I believe it's the day after Easter as well. If you're planning on filing a tax appeal, I would highly, highly recommend calling an attorney before April 2nd, because you don't want to run into a situation where you're fifth in line and the law firm doesn't have enough time to get your appeal filed in time before the end of the day.
All right, well, those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me and answering them.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you have a question that you would like to learn more about, follow the Ohio State Bar Association on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and use the hashtag #LawYouCanUse to write to us. And if you'd like to learn more about property tax appeals and more than 600 other legal topics, go to ohiobar.org/lawYouCanUse, and thanks for joining us.